with their larger-than-life personas, zany outfits, and, of course, their grand and diabolical plans for life as we know it. Movie villains enshrine themselves in our imaginations for all time. While some villains' plans are quite ingenious and would have been very difficult to undo if not for our intrepid hero's last-minute intervention, these are not the types of plans we are here to discuss. This list will cover villains whose plans appear to be reasonable on the surface but are almost laughably bad when you think about them for a moment. There will be spoilers ahead, you have been warned. At the end of Rise of Skywalker, we learn that the Emperor is still alive, with no explanation, and that he has built 1,000 Star Destroyers with planet-destroying superlasers similar to the Death Stars. However, there are some serious issues with Palpatine's plan, not to mention the fact that the element of surprise is useful, and he announces himself before his ships have left dry dock. Worse, the plan as a whole has more holes than Swiss cheese. The Death Stars were extremely difficult to destroy. The first had a single weak point, and the second would have been nearly impossible to destroy with an outside fleet if they had finished building it. Star Destroyers, on the other hand, are quite destructible, and rogue fleets of smaller ships, as seen at the end of the film, would easily swarm and destroy them before they could reach planet-destroying range. Given the assumed size of the Star Wars galaxy, the random people fighting the Empire are just a motley crew Lando threw together in a day. They are nowhere near the strength of all galactic privateers. Even if they had escaped, the Emperor's fleet of Star Destroyers would have become too dispersed and would have been annihilated by tiny freighter fleets and suicidal fighter pilots. We've all heard the story of Scar tricking Mufasa into death while also making Simba self-exile from guilt, believing it was his fault. And the truth is that Scar made a colossal mistake. Scar only had to eat Simba. The little lion cub would have posed no real threat at that size, and then kill and eat any other remaining lion cubs that were not his own offspring once Mufasa was gone. After that, he could simply assume command and no one would question him. This is normal behavior in the Lion Kingdom. When a new male lion or lions takes command of the pride, they simply kill and eat any lion cubs who are not their own offspring, replenishing the pack with their own DNA. While it is a nice Disney film, they would not have chosen such a dark plot. In reality, the story would be much shorter, and Simba would be in Scar's belly. For those who are curious, only about 20% of lion cubs survive to adulthood. Morpheus tells us in the first film that the robots are keeping us alive in order to use us as giant batteries to keep them powered. However, this is one of the biggest plot holes in film history because it makes no sense. This is a terrible idea in terms of thermodynamics and science in general. Even if it were theoretically possible, you could generate more power by simply burning the resources used to keep humans alive. Apart from it being a plot hole and the writers not understanding science, the only explanation is that the machines, being partially sentient, are amused by us. Or they have feelings for us and don't want us to be completely destroyed. They might want us to think about batteries so we don't realize we're basically a reality show for their entertainment. Jurassic World is a film full of bad decisions. From leaving the door open while checking the pen of a supposedly escaped dinosaur that we know can camouflage, to attacking said dinosaur on foot with tranquilizer guns, all the way up to the CEO of the park, who is a novice helicopter pilot, attempting to destroy the escapee with a machine gun attachment and crashing into a giant glass enclosure of pterodactyls. What we mean is that the decisions in this film are already some of the dumbest imaginable, and the characters are all cartoonishly stupid, but the villains go above and beyond. InGen is up to its old tricks again, and they want to train raptors to fight for them in battle, much like trained dogs. And they believe it will revolutionize warfare in some way. To put this theory to the test, they perform a live-fire exercise in which they release a swarm of raptors and attempt to fight alongside them to kill another dinosaur. To punish them for their arrogance, the raptors decide to team up with the dinosaur they are supposed to catch and murder the rest of the park mercenaries they are supposed to be assisting. In Black Panther, we learn that the poor nation of Wakanda is actually a hidden paradise of riches and technology, boosted by a rare metal native to the region called vibranium. This technology enabled them to flee colonialism, but some felt they should have fought back. This included the current Black Panther's uncle, who was destroyed for betraying his country and leaving behind a son in America. That son, known as Killmonger, devises a plan to return to Wakanda, challenge T'Challa for the throne, and seize control of the country. Then he intends to distribute vibranium weapons to all of his various rebel groups around the world and launch a revolution in which they take over and rule from Wakanda as lords of the entire world, finally righting all of the wrongs of slavery and colonialism and ensuring everyone lives in proper peace and harmony. The problem with this plan is that the Avengers, as well as all the other superpowered heroes in this universe, exist, one of whom already uses vibranium technology. At the start of Sherlock Holmes, A Game of Shadows, we learn that the world is on the verge of war, and Holmes suspects Moriarty is behind it all. After some dangerous investigations that nearly cost him, John Watson, and John's new wife their lives, he discovers that his arch-nemesis Moriarty has been secretly pulling strings to make things worse while appearing to be a good friend of the Prime Minister and a man of peace on the outside. We learn that Moriarty went to such absurd lengths to start a world war so that he could own the bullets and the bandages while people fought. Things he owns through hundreds of shell companies, things Holmes destroys by stealing and deciphering his secret notebook. The absurdity of it all is that there is no reason to go to all this trouble and risk getting caught, as he did, and being dragged over a waterfall. Governments do not need to start a war to buy bullets and bandages. They buy them anyway in peacetime and stock up whenever you make things sound slightly worse. Moriarty would probably make more money in the long run by keeping tensions high but not starting a war, so countries with strong economies could still buy but felt compelled to stockpile. In the film Watchmen, Nixon is in his third term after winning the Vietnam War with the assistance of superheroes and has now further outlawed them. Rorschach, an anti-hero, believes former heroes are being targeted, but it soon becomes clear that something else is going on. As the plot progresses, the blue, radioactive, godlike superhero Dr. Manhattan is accused of causing cancer in people and is forced to leave the Earth in shame and sadness. We soon arrive at the lair of another hero, Ozymandias, who is known as the world's smartest and fastest man. Following a complicated final battle, he activates several superweapons that destroy major cities in every major country on the planet, particularly nuclear ones. And he makes it appear to be Dr. Manhattan. The entire world rallies behind Dr. Manhattan as a common foe, believing that it is best to make them believe he did it so that there will be peace and a permanent end to the Cold War. He then willingly leaves the planet, allowing the charade to continue. Of course, none of this makes any sense. Dr. Manhattan is still regarded as an American hero, and even if he did destroy US cities, this would almost certainly unite the countries against each other, rather than simply make them angry at Dr. Manhattan. And nations would be especially enraged at the United States for releasing him. Voldemort has been splitting his soul when he kills people and hiding the pieces in objects to anchor himself to the mortal world, according to Book 6 of Harry Potter. As Dumbledore explains that all these magical vessels must be destroyed so that the Dark Wizard is no longer anchored to the Earth, Harry initially despairs, marveling at the enormity of the task ahead of them. Dumbledore reassures him, explaining that Voldemort would have been sentimental and wanted to encase them in valuable objects. And ones he would be able to return to if necessary. Aside from vanity, there is no reason to put them in anything special, it simply makes it easier for your enemies to identify you. To make matters worse, putting them somewhere you can get to them gives your enemies a way to get to them and is therefore essentially useless. Even if he could reassemble his soul, there's no evidence he wanted to, as he thought having it in 7 pieces, the most powerfully magical number, would be a big deal. Finally, if he had placed them in random objects and then magicked them so no one could return to them, people would have to keep destroying his body, and he would keep reappearing like Gandorndorf. In the film Signs, our heroes begin to notice strange crop circles, followed by strange radio noises. Things quickly escalate to the point where they see a strange video on television of what appears to be a grey alien walking through the frame. Soon after, they are huddled in their basement, anticipating an alien invasion. As the film progresses, we discover that aliens who have traversed the galaxy for unknown light years and have human-like appendages have more difficulty opening doors than a common house cat and cannot break through wood. They are also extremely sensitive to water. When the film concludes, it is accepted that they came for us, to harvest us, leaving us with some of the most stupid aliens imaginable. They are intelligent enough to have technology capable of invading Earth, but they lack biosuits to protect them from water, the most prevalent thing on the planet, something to which they are fatally allergic. And they are trying to harvest us, despite the fact that we're mostly bags of squishy water with some crunchy bones inside. Even after scouting our fields and installing landing pads, they couldn't figure out how to protect themselves from water or a baseball bat, and was unable to open a simple wooden door. We've all heard about Thanos' plan to wipe out half of all life with the Infinity Stones in order to solve what he believes is a serious resource problem throughout the galaxy. However, there are a few major flaws in his strategy. For one thing, his plan calls for him to destroy half of all plant and animal life, which doesn't really solve the resource problem. Eliminating half of the population at once frees up some current resources, but it also eliminates a large number of people who may have been in important positions or doing important things. For argument's sake, suppose Thanos considers all of this and ensures that the snap does not affect people driving cars or flying planes, resulting in fewer casualties, leaves a fair distribution of people with the appropriate expertise per region, does not affect plant or animal life, and leaves almost nothing to chance. Major issues remain, however, because most resource issues are actually infrastructure related, and even if they weren't, killing a bunch of people doesn't change the fact that people will simply reproduce again. Thanos destroys the stones so that no one can undo what he has done, but this means he won't be able to do it again when populations inevitably increase, especially with all of the abundant resources they now have. In the end, Thanos simply wants to commit genocide, with no positive consequences. They were more honest about it in the comics, and he just wanted to be a big shot and impress the female deity who personified death.